like to now move on to introducing our one speaker. And our speaker today is Deanne. Deanne is a fantastic Toastmaster. She's really exceptional at everything she does, whether it's just taking on any of these club roles, these meeting roles. And I found her to especially be very good at it when, for example, we have open houses. And she's, of course, very good at storytelling and just all the aspects of being a Toastmaster. So it's wonderful that she is embarking on her journey once again. And I think what's going on is, of course, is that she chose another pathway. So we have her now as a speech giver who is going to be giving her icebreaker. So I know she's very nervous. I don't want to make her any more nervous because obviously it's her first speech and everything, which it's not. Well, the title of her speech is Your Attitude Determines Your Altitude. And I'll just put in this really quick quip, which is Frank just gave a little story about how his altitude, that is having to jump out of a plane, kind of formulated his technique for creating an attitude, which was via neuro-linguistic programming. I think that's an interesting irony. At any rate, I don't want to take away from Deanne, but I just thought I'd bring that up. This is a real treat. We're going to hear Deanne give her speech, her icebreaker, and the title of this is Your Attitude Determines Your Altitude. So your attitude determines your altitude. I'm sure this is going to be very interesting. Let's welcome Deanne.
Well, thank you, everyone. We all know that stress is harmful to our health. We hear it over and over, but really it depends on your perspective, or you could say your consciousness, your awareness of it. What's yours? So, we all know this. What's this glass? Is it half full? Is it half empty? And it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's one of those cliches. We've heard it for years and we kind of roll our eyes at it. And so over time, things like that lose their meaning. We don't really think about it. We roll our eyes at it. It's like, yeah, whatever, I know that. But it's really about our consciousness, our awareness of how we approach life, because it's not just that glass, but it's everything in life. And to illustrate this for you, as a nutritionist, it's obvious to see the negative side effects of stress. I mean, we see it in everything. In fact, if our stress level is continually elevated, this means our cortisol level is continually high, which then keeps our blood sugar high, so stress alone can cause diabetes, even if you have a great diet. And that's just one of the many effects of stress. We see this all the time. So it's really easy to focus on that. And in fact, in nutrition, as well as Western medicine, we have a tendency to focus on what is wrong because we want to fix what is wrong. So basically we look at it as the glass is half full, but we want to bring it to full. And that's all well and good, but it's not necessarily the point. It's certainly not the point of this speech. The point is our focus. In general, it's our attitude. It's about our attitude about, life and how we can approach things. So I focused on stress management for years because of the importance of it. And this is what I saw as the cause pretty much for all chronic issues. And there's so many ways of mitigating stress. There's meditation, there's NLP, and all of these can, change our state of awareness and consciousness. There's tapping or qigong, tai chi, yoga. In fact, yoga literally means union or to yoke, which is to bring back in body. And it's not, Western culture, we've made it an exercise, but really it's preparation to be sitting in meditation to gain that consciousness, awareness around us. But really, if we're reacting to the stress only, we're behind the curve. That's like, you're in reaction mode. You're basically, if you're surfing and you're just getting pummeled by the wave, it's damage control. You're behind the curve. You're behind the wave. When you're surfing, you want to be in front of it and using it. And stress management really is like just getting pummeled. It's like, wait a second, we need to not really back up a little bit, but actually move forward a little bit. We're not taught really how to use our brains in life. In school, we're, educated to learn, all the 3 R's or whatever. And we're really it's true programming of how we use our brain. But we aren't really taught the right way to use this amazing tool that we have. We have between 60 and 70,000 thoughts per day. That's a lot of thinking. And they're largely repeated, and they form who we are and our beliefs about ourselves. And if we say to ourselves these sentences over and over repeatedly of, oh, I should have done better. I blew that. Or dang it, Deanne, you know better than that. If we repeat these same negative sentences over and over in our head, it begins to erode at what we think we are capable of doing. It creates a chain reaction in our lives. So if we're feeling negativity, then we just basically prove this as a reality, and then our life will show us things that support that reality that we're thinking, and it changes our perspective. And then we might see the world mostly as, half empty, not half full. It really is about our perspective. But one of the really fascinating things about being a human being is that we have the capacity to observe our own brains and our own thoughts. But again, we're not taught this. Most of the time we're a participant. We're behind the curve. We're getting pummeled by that wave. We're in reaction mode. And then we're doing damage control for the stress that we're experiencing. We're trained in this. It's an energy that is either good or bad. It's right or wrong. It's this or that. And it's definitive black and white. And life is not like that. And it's interesting to think about our thoughts lead to a feeling in our body, which then generates a hormone, which then circulates and changes our physiology. So your physical health starts first with your thoughts. And if we're thinking these negative things constantly over and over, how do you think your physical health is going to result from this? And so it comes back to being in a state of awareness and consciousness. And, humans, our brains are just so fascinating. We have this capacity to be an observer, but most of the time we aren't. We're an active participant and we're reacting. But if we just take a big step back and observe what we're thinking, it's like, wow, that was an interesting reaction that I just had. Just observe it and watch it instead of reacting and getting emotionally involved, which then creates that hormonal change in that cascade. Basically, we act on how we either want to feel or how we don't want to feel. But again, if we just take that one step back and we don't have that same stress reaction, that automatic reaction, it can really change our life. And that's really the point. You have more control over your health than most people realize, more control over our physiology. And so in short, your attitude really determines your altitude. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
I'd like to now call upon Joanne. I kind of overlooked her earlier. Everybody knows, I guess, that I sort of have a bias against asking the general evaluator to explain their role. And I guess the analogy is, do we ask the table topics master to explain their role at the beginning of the meeting? However, I don't really have a pet peeve about it. In this case, I just simply forgot, actually, and I was screwed up with the schedule. But Joanne, you have your opportunity to explain your role. You are our general evaluator, and let us welcome Joanne, the very capable Joanne, past president.
Thank you. This has been a great meeting. We've had a lot of our consciousness raised by multiple people. So first off, I would like to turn it over to Stephen, who is going to raise our consciousness more with his evaluation of Deanne.
Deanne,
Stephen, mute. Okay, good.
Deanne, what can I say? This was an icebreaker for someone that has given so many speeches. I don't think you're brand new. So it's very difficult to determine what kind of feedback I'm going to give you. But I did figure out something to talk about. Now, I really loved your enthusiasm just starting out within the talk. You're right in the center stage and you're smiling and you start to just open up. And it's very fluid, it's very engaging. And I really enjoyed that aspect of it. And then you started with a very thought-provoking question, or what I'll call like a quasi type question, where you talk about stress management, which I think is during this time is definitely relatable because we're all isolated. And so we got a lot of stressors. Now, in doing so, you rattled off, I think, one or two quotes, and it got me thinking of something that I remember, quite frankly, from Henry Ford. If you think you can, or if you think you cannot, you are right. And that's really what I heard was kind of the foundation of your speech. Was it comes down to really doing a live autopsy of your own consciousness, of the types of thoughts that you have will lead to the health or the behaviors that you have, positive and or negative. So the more time you spend on the negative, obviously life's going to suck. And then the reverse, the more you evaluate and assess your consciousness through various examples you mentioned, yoga, meditation, etc., those were good. Now, let me step back because your focus was presentation mastery. I like how you threw up the glass of water, that's a coffee cup, right up in front, center stage. It's right there. You said everybody knows half full, half empty, etc. I thought that was a good touch. Now, one thing that I thought that was just extraordinary is you have this gift to take these high-level thinking conscious concepts and really put them into layman's terms where we could follow along what you're talking about, whether if it's the 60,000 thoughts that go through someone's mind that really just repeat themselves based on thought, or some of the other pieces and analogies that you did. So I thought you did very well there. Now, the one piece in your speech that kind of confused me was during the opening, you talked about stress management. And I was like, okay, cool, this is going to be great. And then all of a sudden you said, well, that's not what I'm going to talk about. I'm actually going to focus on this. And so you completely did this shift from stress management to focusing on consciousness. And it kind of threw me off a little bit in terms of just what I was trying to focus on and listen intently for your thing. But other than that, keep up the high level of energy, keep sharing the factoids in a digestible manner. And I think we'll all walk away with a higher level of consciousness. Great job, Deanne.